It's not every day you can do this to a world famous race car. This is the Group A Skyline GTR that we saw for sale back in January at the Tokyo Auto Salon.
Oh, the Group A. They're gonna sell it? Starting at $176,500. Yeah, that's the starting price though. It's gonna be like 400,000, isn't it?
And it has been sold, and here it is. First though, big thanks to Harlow Jap Autos over in the UK for giving us exclusive access to this car before it gets sent off to its new owner. But before it does, we're gonna have a bit of a look at it. Now this car, if you've been on the internet and looked at GTR photos in the past, 20 years or so, guarantee you would have seen this car, and one of the biggest reasons is because of this guy here, Tsuchiya, the Drift King himself, and also because it has this iconic Advan livery, often copied, but this is the real thing. Look, it's right here. You can't do this at a museum.
Yeah, just to show you that this is not a replica. Look, it is a race car. And it has stuff like this. This is the Taisan water-cooled braking system. But actually, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
What makes a car collectible? In the world of Japanese cars, a genuine Group A Skyline GTR like this should be pretty high on the list. It might have high mileage, but this is a car that has earned its stripes. The RB26 N1 engine is from a golden era of Japanese turbo power. It dominated racing in the Group A series of its time, when cars were still much closer to the ones you could buy from the showroom. And it did so with a legend behind the wheel, the Drift King himself, Keiichi Tsuchiya.
So what makes a Group A car like this cool? Well, the biggest reason this is such a cool car is because it's very close, you could say, to being a factory car. It's modified off a factory car. A good example of this is, you can see here, the GTR's famous pumped guards, which are even bigger than they are on the factory car. If you look at this gap here, the bumper would not normally come out this far. That's what's causing this gap, because the guard has been pumped so much to fit these wheels under the guard to pass regulation. Also, this panel gap here, stock guards have been pulled out as far as possible within regulation. So normally a car with panel gap like this would not be worth this much, but it is a Group A. Yeah, it's a fairly big gap there. Also, things like this, the factory bonnet being made out of aluminium, and also these famous GTR pumped rear guards. That's how they sold them from the factory. Also, things like this, these side steps are Nismo parts, homologated for racing. This is the factory rear wing. You can see here on the rear boot lid, this is where the fuel fillers would have gone. The fuel system has been changed. This is the standard GTR wing that's on all the road cars, and this little gurney flap here is a homologated N1 part that they sold. And so are these vents on the front bumper. You can see it still has a few battle scars here on the rear quarter from its racing days. So this car was sold completely unrestored, which I think, I don't know about everybody, but I think a lot of people see a lot of value in a car that has been untouched from when it was raced. Another iconic part of these cars, the magnesium alloy centered wheels. Speaking of center, also center lock. These wheels wearing the, of course, Yokohama Advan slicks in a 250 profile. Now, if this design looks familiar, I think you'll see that a lot of the early Nismo streetcar wheels were based on this design.
I'm sure the big question is, what engine does it have? Is it the original engine? Does it make the huge horsepower the original one did? Not quite.
It might not be the original race engine, but this is an RB26 N1 spec with the twin turbos. And it does retain a few of the ancillary features of the original race engine. So this was installed for ease of use. It will start quite easily and can be used quite effectively at a racetrack. It's not the original engine, like I said, but still, it suits this car perfectly, I think. Speaking of original engine bay features, look at this. A little cover to prevent any leaks from the EP Racing reservoirs there. This is cool. This looks like someone's grandmother sewed it up for them. All right, I've never been able to do this without asking permission or being yelled at before. I think any GTR fan would appreciate this tachometer. Starts at 4, goes to 10. Still original. And here on the controls, electric fan on off. ETS, now I'm assuming this dial is to set the front rear bias for the four-wheel drive system. Now this system here, I'm not 100% sure about what it is, but as far as I know, it's an electronic water cooling system for the brakes. And as you can see, it looks like a fuel system, but it's here in the cockpit, so that's obviously not what it is. So there's a tank over here, which is where the water goes, and then it pumps here to all the brakes to cool them down. Now I'm assuming what these knobs here are is the amount of flow to each of the brakes. So you can kind of guess that when a car comes in for a pit stop, they fill it up here with water and then just ask the driver how the brakes feel and adjust them.
I apologize, I did very little research coming into shooting this. If you know something really cool about this car, now's the time to write it down in the comments.
Yeah, the interior on these cars are not too far removed from a factory GTR. Also, this is kind of interesting. The roll-up window winder, which does work. Yeah, it still has the electric windows here, but also has the winder. I'm guessing this is from one of the lower spec Skylines that were available back then.
Yeah, you don't really see this kind of wiring and these kind of features on a modern race car. This is the ECU in here, in like a plastic lunchbox. It's held in place with this oki strap, or this rubber strap.
Hey, if you don't believe me, look, it was actually made to spec. See, all the little brackets are correct, even though it's someone's mum is missing their favorite bit of Tupperware. Also here in the rear, I think this is something to do with the four-wheel drive system. And it's also in a plastic lunchbox. Here's something else that adds a lot of value to this car. It's Keiichi Tsuchiya's autograph there on the dashboard. And speaking of the dashboard, look, no dash lift.
Oh, I'm bigger than your average Japanese guy. Okay, battery on, power on, neutral, start. This is so cool. If you want to see more content like this, why not subscribe? Maybe we can get access to more cool stuff like this in the future. And if you want to see it, well, subscribing is the only way. So there you go, a very brief look at the R32 Group A GTR here in Japan. A big thanks once again to Harlow Jap Autos for giving me access to this car before it gets sent overseas to its new owner. So last time I get to see this, unfortunately. Ah, well, at least I got to start it and give it a bit of a rev. That was kind of fun. Now, if you happen to be in the market for something like this, there's an email down below for the guys here in Japan who gave me access to this car. So if you want to get a GTR Group A, maybe hit them up, or something else cool like that. Also, another big thanks to these people here. These are my tier 3 subscribers over on patreon.com. That's right, I got a Patreon now. These are the team manager names you're seeing on screen right now. If you'd like to see the content push forward even better and more of it, and also see the videos 24 hours before everybody else, the way to do that, patreon.com. Look, I know I've got the beer can Skyline, but keep the dream alive. GTR, I don't know. We'll see. But it was good fun having a go at this. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. It's so, oh.